She dropped my hand the moment we stepped inside. Not by accident. Not in a let me fix my dress way. She just let it go. Like it was never there. The room was glowing in warm gold light, jazz playing softly under the hum of cocktail conversation. Everyone looked expensive, not rich, just polished. Like they knew how to wear scarves properly and order wine without looking at the menu. And there I was, sleeves wrinkled from the drive, holding my wife's coat, feeling like I'd just wandered into someone else's movie. She didn't even look back. She moved through the crowd like she belonged there. Like she'd rehearsed this. Smile here. Handshake there. A soft laugh, her fingers brushing someone's arm. His arm. Like she was born to do this. I watched her walk up to her boss and greet him with a hug I'd never received in my life. Not even on our anniversary. I stood there holding the coat. 20 minutes passed. I checked. Still no glance. Still no wave. I shifted from foot to foot by the art piece that looked like a glowing steel pretzel. I tried not to look like someone who'd been forgotten. But the truth was loud in my ears. I was background. A coat racked with anxiety. I walked up behind her once. Thought maybe she'd want to introduce me. She didn't see me. Or pretended not to. I opened my mouth, then stopped. Her laugh, the one I hadn't heard in weeks, bubbled out of her as she leaned closer to her boss, whispering something. They both smiled. I turned around and walked out. I didn't even know where I was going. I just kept walking. Down a long driveway lined with string lights. Past valet guys who didn't bother to ask if I needed my keys. Past a couple making out against a parked Audi. Past the corner where I'd kissed her the night I proposed. My phone buzzed 6 minutes later. One message. Come back. That's all it said. Not where are you? Not I'm sorry. Not even my name. Just those 2 words. Come back. As if I was the one who left her alone. As if I was the one who forgot us. As if she hadn't erased me the moment we crossed the threshold into that glowing, perfect house. I stared at the screen. I was standing outside a gas station, breathing fog into the cold air, unsure if I was about to throw up or just collapse. And all I could think was, how long had she been preparing for this version of herself? The one that didn't include me? That night didn't end there. And trust me, what happened after that message? That was only the beginning. I didn't go back. I sat in my car across the street from a laundromat with flickering neon, watching the blue light pulse against the windshield like a heartbeat I didn't recognize anymore. Her text sat unread on my lock screen, even though I'd already read it 5 times. Come back. Those 2 words burned holes in me. I imagined her phone still in her hand, waiting for the little delivered status to change to typing. Her painted nails tapping the screen, maybe chewing on her lip like she used to when nervous. Except, I didn't think she was nervous. I don't even think she realized what she'd done. I drove home 30 minutes later. Quiet. Empty streets. That weird in-between hour where the bars are still open, but no one's laughing anymore. The house was dark when I got there. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I thought for a second she might still be at the party, laughing over something clever her boss said. Or maybe she was in his car by now. That thought hit me hard. I actually leaned forward in the driver's seat and whispered, "Nope. Don't do that." Like I was trying to stop my own brain. I showered in silence. Tried not to think. Tried to scrub off the smell of shrimp toast and would smoke from that perfect backyard patio. The water didn't help. Nothing did. I put on sweatpants and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her pillow. I don't know how long I sat there, but I remember blinking and realizing 2 hours had passed. Then I heard the door. Soft footsteps. The rustle of a purse strap. I didn't move. She came into the room like nothing had happened. No explanation. No questions. Her eyeliner was slightly smudged, but her lipstick was fresh. That's the detail that stuck with me. Her lipstick was fresh. Like she'd reapplied it before coming home, even though no one else would see her. She looked at me and tilted her head. "You just left," she said, not angry, not even surprised. Just puzzled. Like I'd forgotten to rinse a dish. I was invisible, I replied, barely recognizing my own voice. "At your boss's party, I didn't even exist." She rolled her eyes. Actually rolled them. "I told you it was a work event. You always do this." "Do what?" That's what I wanted to scream. "Support you? Show up? Stand there like a sad coat check guy while you flirt with Mr. Moneybeard and laugh like he's some prophet of charisma?" But I didn't scream. I never do. She changed clothes. Got into bed. Turned off the lamp. Just like that. The next morning, she made coffee like she always does. French press, oat milk, a sprinkle of cinnamon on top. She even put mine in the blue mug I like, the one with the chipped handle I won't throw away. She placed it in front of me without a word. I asked, "Who were you with after I left?" She blinked. "What are you talking about? You didn't come home for 3 hours. Where were you?" She stared at me for a second too long. "We stayed late. Just chatting. With Fletcher." She didn't answer immediately. There were a few of us. I didn't say anything else. I just nodded, took a sip, and stared at the mug. She took that as the end of the conversation and walked away. But I wasn't done. Not inside. That day, I started watching. I know how that sounds, but I did. I watched everything. Her phone habits. Her mood swings. Her sudden burst of energy followed by long, distracted silences. She started taking her calls outside. Started locking her iPad. Said she was working late twice that week. Left early Sunday morning to go to brunch with Monica, who, for the record, lives in Kansas City and wasn't even in town. I didn't confront her. I didn't even ask. I just began collecting the moments. One by one. Quietly. Sadly. Like picking up pieces of something already broken, knowing deep down I was the only one holding on. And then, 5 days later, something happened that changed everything. I received a message. But not from her. The message came through at 2:16 a.m. I was awake. Of course I was. Sleep hadn't come easily since that night. I'd been lying there in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, the soft hum of its blades almost hypnotic, when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. At first, I thought it was spam. The number was unknown. Just 10 digits, no name attached. The message read, "You deserve to know what happened after you left." My heart jumped. I sat up, instantly alert, as if the text had slapped me across the face. I stared at the screen for at least a minute, my thumbs frozen over the keyboard. My first instinct was paranoia. Was this a scam? A joke? But something about the phrasing. It wasn't robotic. It wasn't vague. It was specific. Too specific. Like someone had been watching. I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. Not for 2 hours. When it finally came, it wasn't a name. It was a photo. It took me a second to understand what I was looking at. The image was dim, grainy, clearly taken through a window or some reflective glass. But there was no mistaking who it was. My wife, Melody, sitting beside her boss on a large white outdoor sofa. The party was still happening. I could see lanterns in the background, other guests moving like ghosts behind them. But she was locked in on him. Her body turned toward his, her hand resting on his chest like it belonged there. And then a second image came through. This time, their faces were closer. Laughing. His hand was on her knee. My stomach dropped. The sender still hadn't identified themselves, and I was too shaken to demand answers. My head was spinning. I wanted to wake her up, shake her shoulders, ask her what I was seeing, but she was right there, sleeping soundly beside me, breathing softly, as if she hadn't just shattered something sacred while I paced my car like a fool. I got up, went downstairs, poured a glass of water, and stared out the kitchen window into the dark backyard. I was hoping the chill in the glass would calm me, ground me. It didn't. I texted back, "Why are you sending me this?" This time, the reply came quickly, "Because you need to stop pretending you're crazy. You're not." I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I checked her phone again. I know it's wrong, but I did it anyway. Her texts with Fletcher were minimal. Dry. Sterile. Almost too perfect. Like someone had cleaned them up. I checked her deleted folder. Nothing. She either used a different app or she knew how to cover her tracks. I started wondering who sent me those photos. Another guest? Someone from work? An ex-employee with a grudge? Or maybe someone else who'd been treated like I had? Disposable? I didn't bring it up to her. Not yet. I couldn't. Not without knowing more. Not without proof that couldn't be explained away as a joke, or "You're reading too much into it." But from that day on, I watched her differently. I listened differently. And what I began to notice chilled me more than any photo could. Little things. Slips. She referred to our guest bathroom as his. Once, she corrected herself mid-sentence. I told Fletcher, I told Marcus that, and when I asked who Marcus was, she said it was a barista. She laughed, but it was the wrong kind of laugh. It ended too fast. She started dressing differently, too. Subtler, but there. New shoes. Nails done more often. She started taking yoga classes on Tuesdays, but when I offered to pick her up one evening, she told me not to bother. She was going for drinks after. The next morning, I checked the gym's class schedule online. There was no Tuesday yoga class. That evening, I sent a message back to the number that had texted me days earlier. Do you have more? And I waited. What came next destroyed any doubt I still clung to and dragged me down a path I never expected to walk. The reply didn't come until 2 days later. I'd nearly convinced myself the number had gone dark for good. I checked it obsessively, reread our brief exchange a dozen times, and even debated whether I'd imagined it. But then, on a completely ordinary Thursday, the kind of day where I was trying to act normal, eating leftover chili and pretending to follow a webinar, my phone vibrated quietly against the kitchen counter. It was a video this time. No message. No explanation. Just a 19-second clip. My hands were trembling before I even hit play. The footage was shaky, clearly recorded on a phone. It showed the inside of what looked like a small lounge or private side room. Dim lights, leather seating, music muffled behind closed doors. I saw her, Melody, sitting close to Fletcher on a dark couch. Way too close. She was talking to him, animated, her face flushed like she'd just stepped out of a spa or a fantasy. She touched his face. His face. Then she leaned in. I paused it. I physically couldn't watch the rest right then. I was shaking, my skin cold, my jaw tight. I sat there in the quiet kitchen with the spoon still in my chili bowl and the sound of my own heartbeat roaring in my ears. She had kissed him. I knew it. I didn't need to finish the video to know. But I did. Later. Because I had to. Because whatever doubt I had left deserved to be buried. And it was. At second 17. Their lips met, softly, like they'd done it before. Like it was a language they spoke fluently. There was no hesitation, no clumsiness. Just two people who no longer cared who was watching, or maybe they didn't think anyone was. I sat on the floor for over an hour after that, leaning against the fridge like my spine had given up. Soup the cat wandered over and nudged my leg, meowing softly like she could tell something had shattered. I didn't pet her. I just stared straight ahead at the oven clock, blinking the same time over and over. I didn't confront Melody that night. Instead, I saved the video. I created a secret folder on a flash drive I hadn't used in years and copied every image, every message, every detail into it. I called it June. That weekend, we went to a family cookout at her sister's house. The way Melody carried herself, laughing with her nieces, serving potato salad, talking about a new book she was so into, it was like watching a stranger wear her skin. I kept glancing at her, wondering how someone could live two lives so completely. How she could be so convincing. Or maybe I'd just never seen her clearly until now. On the drive home, she played music like everything was fine. She reached over at one point, rested her hand on my arm, gave me this soft, lazy smile. "You've been quiet today," she said. I forced a smile. "Just tired." She nodded, turned up the volume slightly. "I get it. Long week." I stared out the window. I wanted to scream. I wanted to pull over and ask her right there on the side of the road, "How long have you been lying to me?" But I didn't. I couldn't. Not yet. I wasn't ready to hear her deny it, to watch her twist the truth with that same casual voice she used when telling waiters she was vegan even though she eats shrimp tempura twice a week. Instead, I started making my own plan. The next day, I took off work. Told her I was finally taking a mental health day. She smiled like she was proud of me. That felt like a joke. After she left for work, I did something I never thought I'd do. I drove to her office. I didn't go inside, that would have been too obvious. I parked across the street in an unmarked lot and waited. Just watched. For hours. Around 12:30 p.m., I saw her. She came out with two coworkers, laughing, eating something out of a compostable bowl. I held my breath. She looked so normal, so believable. If I hadn't known, I would have admired her from afar, thinking, that woman has it all together. But then he appeared. Fletcher. He didn't come out the front door. He walked around from the side, casual, smiling, and he stood close to her. Closer than he did with anyone else. Too close. She didn't flinch, didn't shift, didn't pull back. Instead, she reached up and fixed something on his collar. They didn't kiss, but they didn't need to. I had seen enough. Still, I stayed. Because just as I was about to drive off, something else happened. A woman approached him, not Melody, someone older, wearing a red scarf, clearly agitated. She handed him a folder, pointed at something in it, and walked away briskly. And for the first time since all of this started, Fletcher didn't look composed. He looked nervous. And that's when it hit me. This might not just be about Melody. There might be more. A lot more. I couldn't get her face out of my head, the woman in the red scarf. She was only in the scene for about 20 seconds, but something about her body language stuck with me. She wasn't just delivering something. She was warning him. That folder she gave Fletcher, you didn't open it right away. He just stared at it, then glanced around like someone had slipped a lit fuse into his hands. I caught his eyes dart toward Melody for a second, and even from across the street, I could read something in his face that didn't belong there. Panic. I sat in my car another hour, waiting to see if he'd come back out. He didn't. Melody eventually returned to the building with her coworkers, laughing, adjusting her sunglasses like life was just a never-ending brunch. I drove home slowly, thoughts turning over like bad gears in an old watch. I didn't know what was in that folder or who the woman was, but it became clear this wasn't just about my marriage anymore. Whatever Melody was wrapped up in, it went deeper. That evening, she came home humming to herself, carrying a little paper bag from a vegan bakery downtown. She handed it to me with a smile and said, "I brought you that lemon thing you like." She'd never brought me anything from that place before. "What's the occasion?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Just felt like being nice," she shrugged. "Weird, right?" I gave her a smile, but inside, every red flag I'd ignored in the past month was flapping like a windstorm. I waited until she was in the shower, then went to her purse. I knew I had minutes, maybe less. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. But then I saw it, a folded piece of paper, slightly worn at the edges, tucked into the side pocket. I unfolded it. It wasn't a receipt. It wasn't work notes. It was a list of names. 12 of them. All women. Next to each name was a date. Some recent, some a few years old. One name had a red dot next to it. Another had a check mark. A few were crossed out. My name wasn't on it. But Melody's was. I heard the water shut off upstairs. I refolded the paper, slid it back, and closed the purse. My heart was racing so fast it was hard to breathe. I didn't know what the list meant, but I was certain it wasn't innocent. Later that night, I emailed the mysterious number again, the one that had sent me the video. I asked one question. "Do you know what the list means?" An hour passed before they responded. Yes, the message read, but not over text. That was all. I sat there in front of the email window, rereading those words again and again, trying to decide if I'd finally gone too deep. I didn't even know who I was talking to, but I couldn't stop now. I typed, "Then tell me where." The reply came just 1 minute later. "Corner booth. Byron's Cafe. Sunday. Noon. Come alone." I stared at it like it might vanish. Byron's was only 15 minutes away, an old diner near the edge of town. Quiet. Private. It made sense. But that wasn't what scared me. What scared me was how fast they responded. Like they knew I wouldn't be able to resist. I didn't tell Melody about the meeting. I told her I was helping my cousin install a ceiling fan. She nodded like it was nothing. Like she trusted me. Sunday came. I drove to Byron's in silence, parked around the back, and walked in with hands sweating so badly I wiped them on my jeans twice before touching the door. The place smelled like coffee and syrup, just like it always had. An elderly couple was arguing over crossword puzzles near the window. A single waitress moved between booths with the weary grace of someone who'd seen everything. And there, in the corner booth, sat the woman with the red scarf. She looked up as I approached. Her expression was unreadable, somewhere between tired and alert, like a fuse ready to blow but waiting for the signal. I slid into the booth across from her. "You're Daryl," she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded slowly. She reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive. She placed it on the table between us. "That," she said, "is why you were never supposed to come to that party." I stared at the drive. My fingers itched to grab it, but my voice came first. "Who are you?" She paused, tilted her head slightly. "Let's just say I was Melody once, too." And just like that, everything I thought I knew cracked open into something much, much darker. I didn't touch the flash drive right away. We sat there in that corner booth for what felt like a full minute, neither of us saying a word. Just the soft clinking of utensils and coffee mugs around us. Her scarf was the same one I'd seen that day in front of the office. Red, floral, worn, and oddly comforting in the midst of everything spinning around me. She stirred her coffee slowly, as if she wasn't about to flip my entire understanding of reality. "I was married," she finally said, voice calm but heavy. 7 years. Just like you." I blinked. "To him." She gave a dry smile. "Not Fletcher. But I knew him. My husband worked under him." And Melody, her voice trailed off for a second, as though she didn't want to say the name out loud. Melody was in the picture. I leaned in without realizing it. "Are you saying this list, the photos, she's done this before?" She nodded once. "Not just her. It's not one affair. Not even two. It's a pattern. They don't just seduce. They recruit. I almost laughed. Recruit? For what? She slid a small, crumpled envelope across the table. I opened it slowly. Inside were two printed photos, both grainy, clearly from security footage. The first was of Melody entering a hotel with Fletcher, timestamped for a date 2 months before the party. The second photo wasn't of Melody. It was someone else. A woman with short blonde hair, walking beside a man who looked vaguely familiar. That's Marcus, she said, tapping the man's face with her nail. Fletcher's business partner. Officially, they run the firm together. Unofficially, they run something else. I shook my head. You're going to have to be clearer. I don't know what you're trying to tell me. She sighed. They use women like Melody to identify vulnerable partners, people with assets, inheritances, pensions, clean credit scores. Then they build trust, build relationships, get married. And when the time is right, the exits start. Sometimes clean, sometimes dirty. I felt like I'd been hit with a truck. You're saying Melody married me for money? I'm saying she wasn't alone when she did it. My pulse was pounding. I reached for the flash drive and finally picked it up. What's on here? Videos, audio, conversations you were never supposed to hear, and more names. I left mine off that list you found in her bag. I made sure of that. Why are you giving this to me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Because someone did it for me, she said, sipping her coffee. And because I know what it feels like to wake up and realize the person you've loved the most has been playing a long, elaborate game with your life. I swallowed hard. What am I supposed to do with this? She looked at me with something almost resembling pity. That's up to you. But whatever you choose, do it fast. Because once they know you're aware, it doesn't take long for things to start changing. She slid out of the booth and stood up. I'll disappear after this, she said. I have to. But I'll leave you with this. Don't wait for her to confess. She never will. Not even when it's all laid bare. She walked out of the cafe like she'd never been there, scarf trailing behind her like a curtain falling on the last act. I sat frozen, staring at the flash drive, at the envelope, at my shaking hands. I couldn't believe what I just heard. But part of me did. Because even as I walked back to my car, the thought that kept looping in my mind wasn't she wouldn't do that to me. It was, what if she already has? I drove home slowly, parked in the garage, and sat there with the flash drive in my pocket. The house was quiet. Melody wasn't home yet. I powered up the old laptop I hadn't touched in over a year. No syncing, no cloud backup. Completely offline. I inserted the drive, and what I saw made my knees go weak. She hadn't just lied. She hadn't just cheated. She had signed something, with my name on it, and it was dated 6 weeks ago. The file wasn't labeled anything suspicious. Just form_483b.pdf, like it belonged to some generic office archive. I clicked it open, and there it was, my name, my signature, my social security number, on a document I had never seen before. It was a joint asset transfer agreement. The wording was dry and technical, but the meaning was clear. I had allegedly authorized the transfer of a substantial portion of my savings, including part of my 401k and a private investment account I hadn't touched in 3 years, into a newly created fund under both our names. Except it wasn't really ours. It was linked to a limited liability company I didn't recognize, registered to an address in Nevada, one that had no office, no employees, just a name, Kerwin and Holt Consulting. I had never heard of it. I checked my financial portal, heart racing, and sure enough, the transfer was there. It had cleared 2 weeks ago, quietly, cleanly. I stood up so fast I nearly knocked the chair over. My mouth went dry. I walked in circles around the living room like movement might help me breathe. My name had been forged. My future had been rewritten, without my knowledge, while I was busy trying to figure out whether my wife still loved me. I went back to the flash drive. Inside the folder labeled audio, there were 4 files. I clicked the first one. It was her voice. Crystal clear. I couldn't tell if it was a phone call or a hidden mic, but it was Melody, no doubt. And she was laughing. He still thinks I'm just having a rough work month, she said, her voice light, casual. Honestly, it's a little sad how easy it is. I don't even have to lie well. He fills in the blanks himself. Then Fletcher's voice. You sure he won't check the paperwork? Melody, are you kidding? Daryl thinks I can't even log into his bank. He still believes privacy is a love language. They both laughed. Long, slow, cruel. I paused it. I couldn't listen anymore. I wanted to smash the laptop into the wall. I wanted to scream until my lungs collapsed. But all I could do was sit there, arms wrapped around myself like I was trying to hold in what little dignity I had left. This wasn't about love. This wasn't even about infidelity. This was theft, fraud, deception on a level I couldn't begin to comprehend. And it wasn't over. The second audio file was a recording of a conversation between Fletcher and someone else, a woman, but not Melody. It was harder to make out, but there was a mention of the extraction timeline, a reference to rolling 2 more before the quarter ends. It sounded like a business meeting, but the language was wrong, cold, predatory. They weren't just stealing from me. They were doing this systematically, efficiently, like it was a business model. I played the third clip. It was just Melody, alone this time. A voicemail maybe. She was talking to someone named Kaylin. I know the timing's tight, she said. But if Daryl doesn't bite soon, we may need to trigger a shift. I can try the emergency exit option, but it'll look suspicious if he pulls the plug before the final disbursement. Trigger a shift? Emergency exit? What the hell had I married? The fourth file was corrupted. Wouldn't open. I tried several times, but it kept crashing. In a way, I was almost relieved. I wasn't sure how much more I could take. That night, she came home late. Said she got caught up at work. I watched her walk in with that same calm, steady grace she'd always had, the kind that made her seem untouchable, composed, perfect. She kissed me on the cheek, asked if I wanted Thai food, complimented my haircut, told me she loved me. And I just stood there, watching a stranger wear my wife's skin like it fit her better than it ever fit me. I knew I couldn't confront her yet. Not without a plan. Not when I was dealing with people who clearly had no issue rewriting legal documents and disappearing funds. So I played the role. I smiled. I nodded. I asked for extra peanut sauce. But inside, I wasn't planning dinner. I was preparing my exit. That night, when she fell asleep too easily, too soundly, I went to the garage and opened the fireproof box where I kept every document that mattered. I found my passport, my birth certificate, my original financial contracts. Then I found something else, a sealed envelope addressed to me. It had my name written on it, in her handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a plane ticket. One way, booked in my name. Departure, next Friday. Destination, Toronto. And taped to the back? A sticky note. 2 words. Just disappear. I stared at the note for so long, the words stopped looking like English. Just disappear. Not, we need to talk. Not, please understand. Not even goodbye. It wasn't a warning. It was an instruction. And that's when I finally understood. This wasn't a marriage. It was a transaction, one she thought she could finalize with a boarding pass and 2 words. She expected me to vanish, to leave quietly, obediently, with my name, my accounts, and my dignity already signed away. But she miscalculated something. I had nothing left to lose. The next morning, I did exactly what she'd asked, but not the way she meant. I disappeared, yes, but not alone. I packed only what mattered, my personal records, the flash drive, and copies of everything that could prove what she and her little team were doing. I didn't slam doors. I didn't scream. I didn't even leave a note. I just slipped out of the house like a draft under a loose window. But I didn't go to Toronto. I drove 2 hours to the nearest federal office with a financial crimes division. I handed over everything, the documents, the files, the audio, the forged signature pages, the paper trail from the fake consulting firm. I spoke to someone named Agent Malone, who had the look of a man who'd seen scams, but still got quiet when I said my wife's name. He asked if I was willing to testify. I said yes before he even finished the question. The next few weeks moved fast. Turns out, I wasn't the only one. They'd been building a quiet investigation already, struggling to connect the dots between a string of financial anomalies linked to different LLCs in different states. My evidence gave them the missing piece, a common thread. Fletcher, Melody, Marcus, and at least 3 other names I'd never heard before. They moved fast. 2 months later, arrests were made. No sirens, no televised raids. Just cold, calculated justice in the form of sealed indictments and quiet detentions. Melody didn't see it coming. I watched from a distance as she was escorted out of the office building where she and Fletcher had built their beautiful lie. She looked small. Not frightened, not yet, just stunned. Like the script she'd been handed suddenly stopped working. And me? I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. By the time she was released on bail, I'd already filed for divorce. The forged documents made it clear I had legal grounds, and the asset transfers, once exposed as fraudulent, began the process of being unwound. Slowly, but surely, everything she tried to take was being returned. But more importantly, I was done mourning her. I moved into a quiet little rental cottage outside Bloomington. Just me and a cat, Soup. I fixed up the porch swing. Started taking walks again. I even picked up a weird new hobby, carving driftwood into little animals. It's not great, but it's peaceful. And peace, after everything, feels like winning the lottery. A few weeks ago, I got a letter. No return address. Inside was a single sentence written in Melody's handwriting. I never thought you'd find your spine. I smiled. Because neither did I. But now that I had, I wasn't ever giving it back. And the best part? The woman with the red scarf? She sent me another message. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. To speak. To help others like me. Apparently, there's a network now, not revenge, not vigilante justice. Just people who've crawled through the fire and come out wiser, more awake. So I told my story. And if you're reading this, maybe it means something to you. Because no matter how dark it gets, no matter how badly someone tries to erase you, you're still here. And that means you've already won.